Hello, everybody. You've tuned into the Indiana State Police Roadshow, brought to you by the Indiana State Police Lions, Cops for Kids, subsidiary of the Indiana State Police Lions, along with my friend Tom Trowell, the man behind the scenes, putting us on YouTube each and every week. Thank you, Thomas, for being here and for doing that to us each and every week. We appreciate what you do, and we appreciate you folks listening to the Roadshow. With me today is Elizabeth Darby. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I appreciate you being here. First time?
It is my first time.
Well, great. Glad to have you and hope you continue to come back. We appreciate you being here.
Thanks.
Elizabeth is with the Indiana Criminal Justice Institute. And what exactly do you do there, Elizabeth?
So the Indiana Criminal Justice Institute is the state's planning agency for crime, traffic safety, juvenile justice, and victim services. We work with federal partners, state partners, and local partners to assess and planning and enforcement of laws. We also look at trends, criminal trends, risk factor trends, and then we also work to facilitate collaboration at that local level.
Well, I know being in the public information section of the Indiana State Police, I've utilized you guys' data and information quite a bit whenever we're putting something out or looking to have some information. So it's a very good source of information. It's available online to anybody.
Absolutely. We have an in-house research department which brings a lot of data together, and you can find information online. You can also reach out to us if there's something specific you're looking for. We can probably get it for you if it's related to crime or justice.
Great. Well, this is very good information and something that we're very in need of, and that's updated all the time.
Absolutely. We have a lot of reports that we do for the legislature, so a lot of annual reports, but we also have some data that comes in on a quarterly basis, both for youth services, adult crimes. We can let you know the frequency of when that data is available and when to expect it as well. So if you're looking for some kind of rolling information, we'll let you know how the schedule will work out and where you can find that information.
And like you said, it's not only for crime, it's for traffic and traffic crashes and everything.
Absolutely. Traffic safety, victim services. A lot of times when we think about crimes, we're only thinking of the offenders. We work with the victims as well. Our victims department is actually one of our largest departments, or our largest department. And that's a big part of crime and law enforcement, is making sure that we're taking care of the victims in the best way they can, getting them connected with the resources they need, and helping to serve that aspect of a crime and of the justice system.
Great. Well, what we're going to concentrate on today through what you guys do is kind of the youth program. And how do you guys work with that with the youth?
Absolutely. So I'm the director of the Division of Youth Services. We coordinate two funding sources. We coordinate federal juvenile justice and delinquency prevention, and we also coordinate the state school safe haven program. What we do for youth is a couple things. Again, we're a planning agency, so we coordinate the state's 3-year juvenile justice and delinquency prevention plan. With help from our state advisory council and local partners, we assess juvenile crime, but also juvenile risk factors to determine priorities for the next 3 years. Our new 3-year plan starts in October at the federal fiscal year. The larger thing we do, though, is we give out grants. We fund a lot of youth development programs across the state through local partners to ensure that they can not only intervene if there are crimes and serve kids who are in the justice system, but most importantly, that we can prevent crime from happening. The goal of the Youth Services Division is to ensure that as few kids enter the justice system as possible. We don't want kids to commit crimes, and we don't want kids to be victims of crimes. So prevention services, you're going to hear me talk a lot about that. That's really where my heart is.
Yes.
We need to do more and more to prevent. It's great to me when we see numbers going down, and we're seeing that. We're seeing some great improvements on juvenile justice, and we want to keep those trends going in a positive way.
That's good. So they're dropping then?
Yes, we're seeing some decreases in juvenile drinking, which is great. Status offenses are going down. We're seeing some declining trends in smoking, some of those risk factors that we know kids sometimes do, things that wouldn't necessarily be a crime if they were an adult, but they are crimes for kids. We're seeing some changes in that. We're also seeing less kids entering detention facilities, which is awesome. It sounds funny to say, but it's great news when the Department of Correction has to close a facility, and we closed a juvenile detention facility in the last year. We've also closed some private or local facilities. It's because we don't need as many beds. We don't have as many kids needing to be in confinement, and that's good news.
That's great news. And for the listeners out there, we're talking about juveniles. What are the specific ages that you're talking about here?
So typically in the justice system, you don't see a kid who's under the age of 10. It is possible if a kid commits a crime, they could go to court. Generally, a judge is not going to file and proceed with a juvenile delinquency hearing for a young child. They'll send that to the Department of Child Services. You can see children as young as 10. There have been a few who were younger. Generally, there's some extenuating circumstances. Most of the kids we're talking about, though, who are in the justice system are between the ages of 12 and 17.
Okay. All right. And do you guys typically get involved with those cases? You don't actually get involved with the cases, correct?
No, we do not have caseloads, which is nice. It allows us to look at things at a very system level, high level strategy, look at trends. We do work with partners and we do some compliance monitoring at facilities to ensure that juvenile protections are in place. Juveniles are given some extra protections. We want to make sure that those are happening. But we don't work with individual cases. I don't have kids' names or files in my office. I have case IDs and kind of trend information that I look at.
So what are the priorities of your youth division? What are you guys looking at?
Absolutely. We're about to release our new 3-year plan. Again, it'll start in October, and we've identified 5 priority areas. A couple are system level things for us to improve reporting for police officers and sheriffs. They have to do a lot of reporting to us, and we want to make that easier for them.
That's good.
We're moving that system online, and really going to, police especially are going to have a big reporting burden undone, which is great. But as far as our kids go, we have 3 really core priorities for kids. Number 1, we're concerned about equity. Again, we have a state advisory council with experts from around the youth development field. They work for state agencies, they work for private companies, they're in justice, they're in schools. And together we really identified an equity concern. What we want is when a kid gets in trouble, we want to be sure that they are assessed, evaluated, referred to courts, and judged based on their behaviors and their actions. We don't want a kid's race or gender or the county they live in to play into what they're charged with, what they're convicted of, or what treatment or intervention options are given to them. We have some issues we need to work on. We have some great progress towards it, and we're seeing that. And we have great participation from our law enforcement and courts to identify that and work on those programs and make sure. We've got work to do, but we've got a great team that's going to work on it. Again, we want to come back to behaviors and actions. The law is very clear what behaviors and actions are okay to do, and more importantly, what is not okay. Both on the status offense, those things that are not crimes if you're an adult, but they are if you're a kid, and on criminal offenses. We don't want criminal behavior to happen, but when it does happen, we want to make sure that a kid has every opportunity for remediation and intervention to help them grow into a strong, independent, law-abiding adult.
Well, that's the goal, I think, is as long as they're juveniles, you're trying to change that habit. Change that behavior rather than punish.
Absolutely. So juvenile services are really focused on rehabilitation. All of our programs focus on life skill development, both on the preventative side and the intervention side. We're focused on giving kids the skills they need to make better decisions. Kids make bad decisions. They need caring adults to help them make good decisions. They need caring adults to say, bad decision, redirect, let's go a different route. And they need people to sometimes show them an alternate way. Some kids don't have great role models. They don't live in a safe community. They don't have a structure in place where they understand what is expected of them. So we have to teach kids, we have to help them, and we have to give them a place where they can grow and even stumble a little in a safe way.
Well, again, you're listening to the Indiana State Police Roadshow, brought to you by the Indiana State Police Alliance and Cops for Kids. My guest is Elizabeth Darby with Youth Division Director at Indiana Criminal Justice Institute. We're talking about youth services. So are the parents brought into this also? Do you have contact with them?
At the local level, they are. There's a lot of efforts to do more with families. Obviously, let's say worst case scenario, a youth goes to the Department of Correction for some time. If they're getting the services they need and the life skills they need, but they go back to an environment that's not good, they're going to revert. They're going to fall into the same habits. If they're not provided or feeling safe at school, they're going to continue to struggle at school even when they go back there. So we need to work on the environments that kids are in. Kids deserve to have a safe home, a safe community, and a safe school. And that's really what we're focused on. Again, at ICJI, we don't work directly with parents, but we fund parent engagement programs, and we fund training opportunities for parents, for teachers, and for law enforcement to really understand, particularly with teens, how their brains work, where they're at developmentally, how they think. They're not always good with thinking about consequences. It's hard for them. So we do that type of training, and we support those efforts so that people can really understand how teens tick, and how to best help them grow into really productive and strong, law-abiding adults.
And a lot of this is focused on mental health these days, for what we've seen in the news and what's come across some of these incidents that we've had schools and places around. Do you have those programs available also?
Yes. So mental health and substance abuse is our second priority for the 3-year plan. We're concerned about the well-being of kids right now, not just in the justice system, but kids who, in general, and kids who are at risk of connecting with the justice system. We talk a lot about the opioid epidemic, and we look at it as an adult issue. It's a family issue to me, because there are little kids who are watching this happen. They're seeing people use drugs in their home. They're seeing the impact of that. Maybe they're not going to work, or they're seeing overdoses. They're witnessing that. They're being disrupted from their homes. DCS, I think it's about 55% of cases where the kid is removed are related to substance abuse issues.
Right.
So it's a family issue. The other piece,
and it's a generation of families too.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so when grandma and grandpa can't take the child either, where do they go? But we're also concerned about some other things related to substance abuse. I'm concerned about substance abuse and use by youth. As I said, we've done great work to reduce juvenile drinking and smoking. Unfortunately, more kids are using heroin, and they're using it at a very young age. We track first use age, and it's dropped for heroin. It's very low. It's very scary. I don't like the idea that 8th and 9th graders are using heroin, even if it's just a handful. That doesn't look good. The future doesn't look very bright for them, and we need to get involved in that. Some other mental health concerns. We're seeing suicide go down, but we're also seeing anxiety and rates of depression go up in kids. We're seeing thoughts of self-harm and things like that. And so we look at that data. We work with the Department of Education. We work with the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services to really assess where it is. And mental health and substance abuse for youth is number 2. We're going to put some substantial dollars into that to get some programming out. The way you treat kids who are using substances is very different than adults.
Okay.
We can't expect the same treatment plans that we're using for the opioid crisis and adults to work for kids. Some of the prescription options, they're not available to kids. So we have to look at it from a very youth-centered focus, and we want to do that. We want to have that conversation about these kids who are affected by substance abuse and mental health. So
what is the most important thing that a caring adult can do for the kids?
The most important thing that any adult can do is be there. Caring adults are kind of like the chain link safety net that every kid has. The more adults that grab hands, the stronger that kid's safety net is. Unfortunately, for a lot of kids, they're missing a link in that. There's a parent absent from their life,
right,
or a relationship that isn't effective. They don't feel safe at school, or they don't connect with activities and have coaches or mentors in their life. Maybe they're not engaged in religious activities or having that. They don't know neighbors. They just don't have all those links that some of us grew up with, or that maybe they had when they were little that are now not there. When that safety net breaks, that's where kids start to fall through. The more adults we have linking hands, being there for that kid, the stronger their safety net is. The more people who can say, I know you're telling me you're okay, but I'm the grown-up here, and I'm going to say no. I'm going to say something's wrong, and we need to talk to someone. The more people kids know that they can talk to, it's hard to go to your mom and dad when you think you screwed up, or when you're feeling really sad and thinking about hurting yourselves. And that's sadly what a lot of kids are dealing with. We want kids to know that they have a dozen people they can go to. They can go to a stranger. We want kids to know that they can, if they're suicidal, they can call a suicide hotline. They can text now a suicide hotline. We want them to get help. We also want them to know that it's okay if they make a mistake.
Okay.
If you make a mistake, if you did something you shouldn't, could be something simple like you're skipping school. You have some other behaviors, risky behaviors, we need you to say something. We need you to reach out. The other piece we need on the kids' side is we need kids to say something about their friends. And then back to the adults, the most important thing is, even if they're not your kids, is to be there. We need more people to step up and be mentors, particularly males. Every mentoring agency in the country needs more male mentors. So if people can do one thing, it's to give 1 hour a week to be a mentor to a kid who is missing that safety net.
Well, that's great advice. Appreciate you being here today.
Thank you.
Again, you've been listening to the Indiana State Police Roadshow. I've had Elizabeth Darby with the Youth Division Director at Indiana Criminal Justice. Roadshow's out.